Welcome to 6 Degrees of Pixelation, the show that brings the social theory 6 degrees of separation to video games. I'm Caleb, this is my abode, and today I will be connecting Sonic the Hedgehog to Donald Trump. And don't worry, as I said in the last episode, this is not a politically proselytizing episode. I'm simply capitalizing on the general US public's captivation with the presidential election. I connected Mario to Hillary Clinton last week, so be sure to check that one out, of course. During that episode, I also explained why I'm connecting Clinton and Trump to Mario and Sonic. The short reason is the mascot's history as the go-to video game nemeses make them great proxies for political nemeses. And Donald Trump is a unique nemesis for this series, unique in that it's actually a bit too easy to connect him to anything. Trump has associated himself with just about everything, whether that be by way of his business dealings, his high-profile television appearances, or his vitriolic rhetoric insulting every culture and by proxy every person on the planet. He's everywhere. I'll prove it to you. Sonic the Hedgehog was the very first video game character to have a Macy's Day Parade balloon. That was in 1993. The creator and namesake of the parade, the Macy's department store, decided to stop offering Donald Trump merchandise in 2015 after he referred to immigrants from Mexico and other countries as killers and rapists. Sonic to Macy's to Trump. That's only 3 degrees. But the 6 Degrees of Pixelation series is about having fun with trivia, and about having a name closely aligned with the 6 Degrees of Separation title, so I won't settle for only 3 degrees. And to do so in this case, I'm going to avoid connections by way of Trump's ignorant comments about the non-rich white guy cultures, and instead focus on actual trivia. After all, to know how disgusting Trump isn't trivia, it's knowledge. So let's begin with Sonic the Hedgehog and his connection to Felix the Cat. Felix the Cat is the first thing many of us think of when we hear the phrase, old-timey black and white cartoon cat. Obviously, the accuracy of that statement assumes there are enough of us out there who hear the phrase old-timey black and white cat often enough to make a valid sample size. And if you've never heard that phrase, then here's your homework. Work that phrase into your next conversation, alright? Felix the Cat made his debut in 1919, appearing in print comic strips as well as animated features. Felix the Cat is actually the first animated character with enough popularity to draw in movie audiences. Now, the question of Felix's origin is debated. Australian film producer Pat Sullivan owned the Felix character and produced the first Felix the Cat silent cartoons, and he claimed to be the sole creator. However, Otto Messmer is believed to be the actual artist and animator, despite Sullivan's name being all over the final products. Similarly, the question of how Felix factors into Sonic the Hedgehog's origin isn't entirely clear. Naoto Oshima, Sonic's character designer, claims that he just put Felix the Cat on the body of Mickey Mouse. Though it's easy to see the inspiration, believing that creating Sonic was that simple is a bit harder to swallow. But if that connection isn't strong enough for you, I can jump back into the Macy's Day Parade. While Sonic the Hedgehog was the first video game character to have a balloon, in 1927 Felix the Cat was used as the likeness for the very first Macy's Day Parade giant balloon ever. Now, I didn't want to lead with that connection though, because in the intro I already traveled the parade route. It seems Felix the Cat must just feel at home in the air. Not only did New York City parade organizers simply let Felix the balloon fly off into the sky after the parade rather than deflate it, Felix also found himself in the role of co-pilot to famed aviator Charles Lindbergh. 1927 was a year not just of a Felix balloon flight, but also of a Felix airplane flight. On May 21st, 1927, the aviator Charles A. Lindbergh completed his first solo airplane flight across the Atlantic Ocean. This is incredible, of course, and he became quite famous for the task. But I'm mostly interested because his co-pilot for the journey was Felix the Cat. Felix the Cat doll, to be precise. He didn't carry a two-dimensional cartoon cat across the ocean, though some people did, well, as two-dimensional as a coat of paint can get. A strike fighter squadron known as the Tomcatters, stationed at Naval Air Station Oceana, used the call sign Felix, and other Navy squadrons would use the Felix the Cat emblem as their sign. Charles Lindbergh even visited the USS Saratoga on February 8, 1929, and while he was there, he was invited to fly a new Boeing F-3B1, a plane which was emblazoned with Felix the Cat. But Felix's high-flying adventures don't stop there. In 1927, Ruth Elder attempted to be the first woman to duplicate Charles Lindbergh's Paris flight. Mechanical problems unfortunately caused her to cancel mid-flight, but things could have been worse had she not carried with her a Felix the Cat doll. At least that's my interpretation. I mean, it seems like a Lucky Charm kind of thing, right? Which is why I'm carrying a Felix the Cat doll with me on every flight I go on from now on. Or I just won't fly. That's safer. Charles Lindbergh is probably on par with Amelia Earhart and the Wright brothers in terms of aviation icons, and any one of these four individuals could have been the subject of the statue heist in our next degree of pixelation. But it was a statue of Lindbergh who would be kidnapped in Disney's 1991 film, The Rocketeer. Oh god, is it too soon for a Lindbergh kidnapping reference? Is it? It's not? Whew! The Rocketeer is a superhero period film about a stunt pilot who finds a jetpack that allows him to fly around and fight crime. Also, there's Nazis. Full transparency, I haven't seen The Rocketeer since I was a child, but even then I remember being completely underwhelmed. Sure, the idea of flying around with a jetpack was interesting, but defying gravity is inherently interesting. I don't need the boring 1930s backdrop or the completely unnecessary Nazis, or not to imply that Nazis are ever necessary, I'm not saying that, just give me the jetpack, okay? Oh, and for the sake of this video anyway, please also keep the admittedly clever use of a stolen Charles Lindbergh statue being used as a test dummy for the jetpack's inaugural flight. I like that, it's clever. It makes this degree of pixelation possible, so of course I like it. Now, it would have been just as clever if they had used someone else like Ruth Elder as the inspiration for the statue, but I don't think women were allowed to be statues back then, right? Suffrage wasn't a thing, I don't think. The game is a basic collection of mini-games that are kinda sorta, I guess, based on the film. I mean, you fly, but mostly in airplanes. Then you fight gangsters, but you do it without a jetpack. And then you fly more planes. Because your entire reason for existing in the popular consciousness is because you're a standard pilot who likes to punch people. Not because you have a jetpack, right? That'd be stupid to add a jetpack to this game. To be fair, there is a jetpack in the game. It's just, you gotta play through a boring series of dumb levels to get to it. Lead with a jetpack, come on. Rule 1 of journalism, don't bury the lead, people. And that prestigious honor of worst movie to game adaptation would be passed along in 1994 to Home Alone 2. Sure, it's great to be the best at something, but even being the worst demands a certain level of exceptionalism. And by that logic, Home Alone 2 is truly exceptional. In addition to winning Worst Movie to Game, in 1983 Home Alone 2 was also awarded Worst Sequel by Electronic Gaming Monthly. The game is unfortunately representative of licensed games in the 1990s. It is far too obvious that far too common developers would create a game without having any worthwhile experience with the source material. Either that, or game makers were just quite comfortable with reskinning games for a quick buck. I mean, I can understand reskinning a proprietary IP, like what Nintendo did with Super Mario Bros. 2. I mean, there was only one game prior. So sure, take Doki Doki Panic and put some Super Mario characters into it. But when we're dealing with a movie, a medium defined by its visuals and by its story, it would seem important to at least honor those visuals and story as much as possible. But Home Alone 2 and far too many other licensed games of the 90s did not give a shit. This game has suitcases and vacuum cleaners and I think toasters trying to kill you. The movie contained none of these. Harry and Marv and Tim Curry as Mr. Hector all make appearances in the game, which is more aligned with the source material than The Rocketeer ever was, but that doesn't make it acceptable. And even worse, I think, is the movie on which the game was based is actually quite good. I watched it again recently for the first time in like 15 years, and it holds up. But be willing to suspend your disbelief. Kevin's straps are absolutely ludicrous. But that's not why we watch. We watch to witness a child use his wits to escape danger, We watch to maybe find a demon toaster somewhere in the background that we must have missed during the first viewing, right? That's the only explanation for it being in the game. And we also watched it... Holy crap, is that Donald Trump? It is! Donald Trump! Pre-candidate Donald Trump was often seen as a stand-in for rich New Yorker. Sure, he was always crazy, but he was crazy in the sweet little billionaire doing his sweet little billionaire things kind of way. Nobody was seriously concerned that he may one day be president of one of the world's largest economies, but here we are, just months from this possibility. But that's the American dream, right? That one can start off as just a cameo in a Macaulay Culkin movie and one day be a serious contender for the office of President of the United States. and hopefully lose that race and quickly be reduced to just a cameo in the footnotes of history. Oh, please let that happen. This has been 6 Degrees of Pixelation, from Sonic the Hedgehog to Donald Trump. Be sure to check out my previous episode, From Mario to Hillary Clinton. And if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. I desperately rely on the validation of others. I know it's not healthy, but it's true. So please give me a thumbs up. Validate me, please. Now you'll find a link in the description below to a Google Doc with my script and my notes and all the sources and stuff, so you can dig in a little bit more if you'd like to. I'm the kind of person who likes to, and you might be as well. Also, special shout out for this episode to Console Wars by Blake J. Harris, a very thick and very great book that helped out a lot with the research in this video. It's about the war between Nintendo and Sega during the really kind of 80s and into the 90s, definitely, and how that kind of played out, and it's just a really captivating and fascinating read. It's also very much a narrative nonfiction book, so it reads more like a story than like a history book or something like that, which some people like, some people don't, but there it is. So I definitely suggest you check it out. It's really good. Until next time, I'm Caleb. Is that an old-timey black and white cartoon cat over there? See, it's easy. You can do it, working in any conversation. And we are burning books.